Tonight, after comparing Washington to Iraq,
it is more violent than Baghdad.
The administration makes it look like a war zone, as Donald Trump flirts with the law to keep control.
Well, if it's a national emergency, we can do it without Congress.
Plus, the president casts himself as the producer, director, and star of a political litmus test for art.
I would say I was about 98% involved. No, they all went through me.
And from mocking in all caps to gold-shaming slaps.
The last time I was in a room that gaudy and ugly was Saddam Hussein's toilet.
The Democrats are taking a sharper tone against Trump.
So it's time to stop apologizing when we're not wrong.
Live at the table, Scott Jennings, Jillian Michaels, Congressman Richie Torres, Julie Rodzinski, and Ellie Honig. Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening, I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America's talking about. A police state. Tonight, more National Guard troops are on the streets of Washington, D.C., as a White House official tells CNN to expect a significantly higher presence there. And now, the Guardsmen won't just be around at night. The official says that they are expanding their enforcement activities to 24/7. Now, remember, under federal law, Trump's takeover of the D.C. police force is supposed to last no longer than 30 days. But Trump already appears to be pushing the limits of his presidential power.
Are you talking to Congress about extending it, or do you believe 30 days is sufficient?
Well, if it's a national emergency, we can do it without Congress, but we expect to be to Congress before Congress very quickly. But we're going to want extensions. I don't want to call national emergency. If I have to, I will.
So where does that power end in reality? Well, according to Trump's border czar, apparently it doesn't end at all.
Do you fear, though, that if the time frame is set that after 30 days, hey, our authority's over, that then these criminals that took themselves off the streets might come right back?
The president's authority is never over. The president's going to do what he has to do to make this country safe again in every city in this nation. To do it for the greatest nation on earth.
Is enough for that, or do you think it would need to be longer?
President Trump doesn't have a limitation on his authority to make this country safe again. There's no limitation on that.
That's a pretty bold statement there from an official over at the Department of Homeland Security, who's supposed to be dealing with the border, by the way, but is commenting on what's happening on the streets of a major U.S. city. Ellie, first of all, Trump says he can do it without Congress just by declaring an emergency. Is that true? And to Tom Homan's point, is there a limit to his power in this area?
Well, I'll take the easy part of that first. Of course, there's a limit to the president's power. Now, what Donald Trump has done so far is lawful. It's within the Constitution, right? He is the commander-in-chief of the National Guard in D.C., not in the states, but yes, in D.C., and there's a law in D.C. that allows him to take over the police force for up to 30 days in case of an emergency. I do find it interesting. I actually thought the mayor was going to sue and say this is not an emergency. That's certainly been her rhetoric. She has not sued, and so the president's declaration stands. Now, the law says for up to 30 days unless Congress extends it. The question is Trump going to try to play sort of tricky with that and say, okay, 30 days, now that's over. Now we'll do another 30 days. I mean, I don't think that's how the law is intended.
Here's a different emergency. Like, I mean, would he have to declare a different emergency?
Yes, I think he'd have to show a wholly different emergency. Now, I don't quite know what he means when he says, I'm going to declare a national emergency. He could be referring to the Insurrection Act, but that wouldn't allow him to take over a police force. That would allow him to deploy other states' National Guards and military. So it's a little unclear what he means by that. But look, Trump has declared a lot of emergencies when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to deportations, and he's been challenged in court, and he's most of the time prevailed in the courts.
But here, I think that that point you just made is really critical. Trump keeps declaring emergencies. He keeps saying that everything is an emergency, giving him extraordinary powers that are supposed to be temporary in many cases, but he's using them in ways that have never been used before. Where does this end, Scott?
Well, I guess in the case of safety for Washington, D.C., it'll end when it's safe again. I mean, and Congress may need to get involved here.
What do you define as safe again?
Well, what do you define as an acceptable rate of violence in the city? I mean, I think the expectation of the citizens is they don't want to die or get carjacked.
I think becomes a very important question. How do we define what safe again means in an American city?
Well, I think in Washington, D.C., you're going to have substantial reductions in violence, substantial reductions in murder, substantial reductions in carjackings, and people are generally going to have to feel like they can walk around and not be under threat all the time. Now, some of this could be statistical, some of it could just be what the local residents are telling him about their quality of life. Will it be solved in 30 days? Probably not, but they're already making substantial progress. They've had over 100 arrests since August the 7th when he first brought this up. 43 people were arrested last night. Bad people are being taken off the streets. Illegal weapons are being taken off the streets. So they're already having some success. My advice on this as a punditry matter would be, well, let's see where we are at the end of 30 days. How much progress have they made? And then Congressman can make an assessment at that point about whether this is working, and maybe it would help to extend it a little bit.
I guess I'm old enough, Scott, to remember when you were appalled, as the rest of us were, on January 6th, when he wouldn't.
Because January 6th happened, should we not enforce the law today?
Excuse me.
Do you want murders today?
Let me finish, Scott. I know
January 6th equals no enforcement of murders. This is a silly argument.
No, let me finish before you make a point about a silly argument.
It'll be silly, but go ahead.
No, what's silly is you sitting down with Mitch McConnell over Chick-fil-A and lamenting how Donald Trump was putting all of you, including Mitch McConnell, in harm's way. But I guess now you're so.
I wasn't in harm's way. I was in Louisville.
No, your then boss, your friend Mitch McConnell certainly was. But now
January 6th was a bad day.
Can I finish?
Murders are also bad.
Can I finish?
I want murders solved.
Can I
finish? Just let her finish.
Scott's gonna.
Well, if she wants to come out here and take pot shots at me, I'm not going to allow it. It's a stupid argument. I'm not going to allow it.
Scott, just let her finish. I don't even know that we've even heard the argument
yet.
No,
we heard it. We heard it every day.
No,
Scott. So go ahead,
Scott,
Julie.
I know you're thirsty for that Senate seat, but let me finish. What I'm going to say.
I mean, you allow this every night.
Scott, just give me 1 second here. Let's just let her finish, please.
Okay.
Just 1
Listen,
second.
I know you've got the picky thing going on, but here's what I'm going to say.
What are you thirsty for? Some kind of relevance out here?
No, actually, Scott.
I don't know what you do for a living.
Really? I elect a lot of Democrats. Scott, but let me finish my thought here, please. Can I just finish what I was about to say, which is that on January 6th, he could have deployed the National Guard. He chose not to. Now, today, because somebody named Big Balls got beat up, allegedly, he wants to deploy the National Guard to a place that has had a 30-year low in violence. And we all know that he is doing this because it's a power grab. He could have done this when this district was actually in danger on January 6th, but he didn't. And I think that's what's so offensive. He talks about backing the blue. He talks about law enforcement. He didn't give a damn, Scott. And you agreed back on January 6th. He didn't give a damn about those police officers and about the safety of people in Washington, D.C. Today, because he wants a power grab, he's doing this despite the fact that every statistic shows that Washington, D.C. has not been safer in the last 30 years. That's the point.
How is that going to fly? I mean, I don't know if this will ever go to a court. Maybe it will if he tries to get some kind of long-term extension. But how do you go from, 2023, which was not even a high, honestly, historically not a high for D.C., but a high in recent history, to now a 30-year low, to a few months ago, Donald Trump was saying, crime in D.C. is so much better because of my people. He was saying that. And then go to Congress and say, we need indefinite authority over D.C.'s local police force? How's that going to work?
Well, the answer is no for me. He's reassigning hundreds of members of the U.S. military, hundreds of FBI agents. And I'm curious to know what federal law enforcement responsibilities are those agents neglecting in order to perform local police functions in D.C. And I just want to echo my agreement. Donald Trump is probably the greatest champion of lawlessness and disorder in our nation's capital. On the very first day of his presidency, he issued a blanket pardon for 1,500 people who were connected to a violent invasion of the U.S. Capitol, a violent invasion in which law enforcement officers were assaulted with dangerous weapons like fire extinguishers and pepper spray. And so he has no credibility on the subject of public safety at all.
Jillian?
Well, I didn't know we were litigating January 6th. I thought we were litigating...
I think his credibility is relevant here.
Well, but as a
is he a legitimate president or not?
Yes.
Is he the legitimate president of the United States?
Yes.
He was elected.
And he has the...
Unlike Republicans, we accept the results
So then
of
he
elections,
has the authority to act, yes?
He has the authority within 30 days and not beyond 30 days.
So he's the president.
Section 740 limits his authority to 30 days.
You're saying because something happened on January the 6th, that therefore negates his credibility to act now.
No,
I do not
I'm
understand
just pointing out
why
that he's a
that
champion of
terrible
lawlessness
day,
and disorder.
Why that terrible day would stop someone from today saying, maybe we should clean up the murders.
Right,
Maybe we should clean up the
Instead of condemning violent criminals on January 6th, he literally
what do you
released
say about
a
the
video.
Capitol Police
he
chief?
literally released a video saying, I love you, you're very special. He referred to the January 6 violent criminals as hostages. Like, he is not a friend of law enforcement.
He
He's an
did, in
enemy.
fact, release violent people back onto the streets.
I
So
want
that
to
is
do
also a fact.
I want
But
to
go
do a
ahead,
gimme
Jillian.
on that one. So I'm just gonna. I don't even want to litigate it. You both win. Here's the thing: DC is not safe. That's untrue. It's 3 times more dangerous than the national average for all big cities. I think the homicide rate is 6 times what it is here in New York. Coming from Los Angeles, I've had my home broken into. I've had my car recently stolen when I went to go visit my mom. All of my friends have been assaulted or robbed, everybody I know, and it's worse in DC. At least 3 times worse.
It's actually safer than Louisville, Kentucky, but keep
Where is the outrage over the fact that we have an unchecked safety crisis in the country? That is alarming to me. And it's alarming to people on the other side.
The thing is, I don't know that anybody is saying D.C. is the safest city in America.
You just said
she's arguing it's a utopia of safety.
No, I'm saying it's.
You're out here arguing it's not necessary.
Putting words in my mouth. Well, that's not what I said. I said it's at a 30-year low. I know, Scott, you guys don't like facts. I know Republicans don't like facts.
Walk around at night.
Let's talk about those facts for a second.
So she's arguing it's safe. Not a person in their right mind.
Yes, I have walked around D.C. at night. Like I walk around New York at night. Believe it or not, actually, I'm not scared of
Ellie wanted to have a word.
Yeah. So I've worked extensively with police, and I don't have a problem tactically with what Donald Trump is doing here. He doesn't have to be the most dangerous place on earth. Something can be improving, but still really bad. If your house is on fire and then a third of the fire goes out, it's less bad, but it could still be an emergency. I work in D.C. It is dangerous there. You cannot deny that. And a common police tactic is to surge resources. We call them task forces. They're applauded across the board, across the political board. I've done it in New Jersey. I've done it in New York. You take the FBI, you team them up with the Newark PD, what have you. You make a visible presence. Now, is some of it for appearance and show? Yes, because what it does is A, it assures people. It gives people a bit of confidence and security, and B, it deters people from committing crimes. So it's not going to hurt, and this is a situation that needs to be improved. I don't see why there's a problem. And I also reject the January 6th. Look, I've been a 100% unambiguous critic of everything Donald Trump did on January 6th. I believe he should have been charged criminally. I believe the pardons were a disgrace. But why does that mean he can't do anything now to enforce the law to promote public safety?
I think it raises questions about the
Sure,
sincerity
he's a
of his
hypocrite.
commitment.
Fine, he's a hypocrite.
But this is all political theater. None of this
Okay,
is going to fundamentally address the
but
crime problem in D.C.
Would you rather
There is a crime
have
problem.
Would you rather have national security out in D.C. where you work?
How about bolstering local police and instead congressional Republicans cut the D.C. budget by $1 billion?
The police union says
Cutting
he's right.
the D.C. budget by $1 billion undermines local police.
The police union says he's right. You saying the union is wrong?
Right on what?
The police union came out on this action by the president and said, we wholeheartedly support the president. We need the support. Are they right or wrong?
Then bolster local police.
The
But it's
police
not the
union
function
said
of the
the president
FBI.
is right,
The FBI
and
has
we
to deal with
applaud the move.
counterterrorism, counterintelligence.
So you're against
They're
the police
federal
union?
law.
That's not true. Let me say, that's not true. I've heard that said a lot by the FBI does street operations. People say the FBI, they're chasing terrorists.
Removing
Some
homeless
are.
encampments?
Hold on. I work.
Sanitation?
Hang on. I
Those are
worked with the
local
FBI.
functions.
The FBI does street rips. They do drug buys. They do gun buys. It's part of what they do. It's not a misuse of the FBI.
No, but I think to his point, he's asking, what we're seeing in D.C. is FBI, Border Patrol, they're doing traffic stops. They are clearing homeless encampments. I mean, those types of things.
But also, what
in
cost?
addition
We don't know
to
the
it.
cost. Where are they being?
No, I mean, that's a fair argument, but these
That's
are just.
I mean, that's an essential question to ask.
Yes, I'm saying, look, it's a fair question, but the decision makers get to make this decision. I mean, where's the chief of the Metro PD? Where's the mayor? If they disagree with this, if they thought this was so illegal, unwarranted, inappropriate, why have they not challenged it? Why have they not? They've challenged it rhetorically, but they haven't gone to court
Well, I
on
mean,
it.
they have also, I mean, to your point, they have said, we will take more resources. And actually, despite Trump's, Trump's rhetoric on this, as always, is going to be on a whole other level. But there is a level of collaboration that is happening between locals and the feds. The question is, how long is this going to go on? And what is Trump going to use it as a passport to do, perhaps in other places, as he has promised? Maybe that's just an empty threat. Sometimes with Trump, it is. But I think that's the question that's facing a lot of parts of the country right now. We have to leave this conversation there. But